Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Zombie Train. This is episode number 312. That means next week is a route review, and I'm your host, Ellis, otherwise known as Trainman or the Admiral. And this week we have a question from Spring, or Spring Marionette, but just Spring. And they write, have you ever had the train attacked by people, and if so, how did you get the train back? Well, we did have the train attacked by people on numerous occasions, but we never lost control of it. So, I don't know how we would necessarily go about, like in a hypothetical scenario where we lost the train. I mean, we'd probably be kind of out of luck, considering it's a train, and we would be on foot at that point. We would have to find a way to get to the train, probably by stealing another locomotive, so you better hope that it happened in a populated area, or a formerly populated area. We didn't really ever have the majority of our manpower, I guess. I was hesitant to say troops, or whatever. Not sure what the right word would really be. But most people stayed on the train pretty much all the time. When we were in places and people needed to help, then they would get off the train and help, you know. Like Marie would help if there was... I mean, she was the cook, so she would help with that sort of thing. Clara would leave if there was a medical issue, and then we had our small team which would go out and scout the area. But generally, most of the people stayed on the train. So, if there was a situation where we lost control of the train, probably many of us would be dead. I'm just, coping with that would have been something. But anyway, yeah, we never lost control of the train. We even never really, actually, I take that back. We lost the engine. We lost the engine, but not without me being able to be on the engine, just by luck, basically. That's actually featured in the past, but we didn't lose the whole train. There wasn't anything, after that, because I'm thinking, how would that have happened? If we got attacked full force, then it probably would have been, a fight to the death. The train was fairly defensible. We had it more or less kitted out so that it would be basically a roving fortress. I mean, it wasn't like we had guns bristling from every, window and whatever, but people knew where to get weapons in the armory. People knew where the safest places to shoot from were. Of course, Chris, being in the cupola of the caboose most of the time, he had overwatch over the entire train, so we weren't really going to be surprised by anybody. And we even had a couple of heavier guns, which I've talked about before, that we kept stored in the boxcar, and that we did use on a couple of occasions to defend the train, which we then used the boxcar as a gun port. Not a gun port. We used it as... what's the word? I don't know. A place where a gun was. I don't know. An emplacement, I guess. But a mobile emplacement. Yeah, there's definitely a word for that I just can't come up with. Either way, we did do that. Yeah, we were attacked a couple of times. Sometimes we didn't even realize we were being attacked. That's one of the... I mean, I guess I wouldn't really call it scary, because you look back and it's not like you were scared by it, because you weren't scared at the moment. But it is a little chilling knowing how close you come to death sometimes. We did get in trouble on the pass with that, and we didn't quite realize we were under attack. But another instance that happened... oh, where were we? I think we were way up north, in way upstate New York. And we had run into some people who were very unfriendly towards us, and we realized much later it was because they were sort of trying to They were trying to... I mean... Well, they were trying to take the train. I'm not sure what the whole thought process was there. I know we sort of hypothesized later that the idea was to get as many people off the train as they could and then attack, but they never really did that because they weren't really warm towards us, so we didn't really want to interact with them that much. We did what we could, and we stayed on the train mostly, and so that was frustrating to them, I can understand. They had a decent community, and I really wish we had, gotten along better. I don't know what ended up happening to them. But we went through there, and we met them and we hung out. But the second time we came through there, they must have known, because they laid a trap for us. Of some description. They had put some stuff on the track, I think. I think it might have been a tree, or just a log, or something. They laid across the track, but we ended up just hitting it, and just splintering it, and going, which, I mean, again, I had figured that it was just like a felled tree from a storm or something, and we just kept on going. I didn't even think about it, and then we realized we're under fire, because they were posted up all around the track, and they were waiting for us to come to a stop, or even be derailed, and then we would have to get out and fix the train. But that didn't happen. So, it took us a few minutes to realize what was going on, because it took them a few minutes, I guess, to sort of decide to shoot. But by then, I mean, we were moving pretty quick. We were probably going 35, 40 at least, because we obliterated that log. I don't know why I didn't end up stopping. I'm not sure if I could have. I don't remember seeing it at a great distance and going, well, I guess we're just going to plow through this, because typically we would try to figure out why there was a log on the track, but oftentimes the best solution was just to go through it with the train. I don't know why they didn't decide, to remove the tracks or whatever, because that was fairly common. We did have at least 2 or 3 instances of just sort of trundling along, and I realized that there's something not right up ahead, so we stopped the train, and then we come under attack. And generally, the course of action there is to just throw it in reverse and leave, because the main reason for our caution is that we don't know all the track and all the nuances with it, and if it's in good condition or whatever. If we just passed over some track, then we know we can back up across it. Never did people think that we would notice and then try to back up, and then they would derail us then. Nobody... There was never like a really well done effort to derail the train, to wreck the train, to even really take over the train. Again, there was the one I can think about on the pass. Yeah, I mean, again, we made a lot of enemies. Mostly, well, I can't tell you why. Mostly because I guess people just didn't want us in their space. They didn't want our help. I don't know. We definitely annoyed more than a couple people by asking more than a couple things of them, because either we needed help or we felt like they were just basically not pulling their weight. And I know that's a weird thing to say, because it's like, oh, we just rolled up into your community and now we're telling you that we need these things for these people and whatever. But I mean, it was our MO to try and get everyone to get along, to try and get everyone to work together, and if people are being adamant and refusing to help, we're going to be adamant back with but you really should, and we need this and we want that, and yada 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 yada. Like, it really isn't... I never felt like it was too much to ask. There were definitely times where I felt like we asked a lot of people, but it was generally people that we knew already, that we would ask a lot of. If it was like a random group of people where we're sitting there going, you guys have so much, food or whatever, you have so few people, this could be traded away or whatever, and they were just, stonewalling us, then we would say, listen, if you want us to come back, and sometimes they didn't, but if you want us to come back, if you want us to ever help you, we need you to play by our rules, at least to an extent, to say that when we need something to help some other people, know that we're doing to them this as well. We are telling other people we need things sometimes for you. It goes both ways. I mean, we did a lot of trades that were straight up trades, that we were going, we have this and you have that, and let's make a trade because we need the other thing. But there were plenty of times where we had basically a schedule of, we're going to come by, we're going to drop off this, that, and the other. We're going to drop off this much food, and we're going to pick up this. And, generally it was a back and forth, although, sometimes there were places that they really didn't have anything to offer, at least not immediately. And, the goal was to just get everyone in a position where they can contribute to this network of people. And that's something that we eventually ended up doing with the Zombie Train Incorporated, but it's something that we started to do with the Zombie Train almost on instinct. But, there were a couple of times where we rolled into town, and we made some enemies, and we got shot at, and they got shot at, and people got hit. The train being as it was, and most of the time people not having anything ridiculous in terms of weaponry. If you were in the train, you were probably going to be okay. They could get you through like a window or something. But we did our best to reinforce the steel sides of the coaches and everything. When we tore them up to redo them into the different coaches that we used, we did our best to reinforce anything that seemed like it would be susceptible. And I believe Paul at one point made a mock-up of, okay, here's what our coach walls are like now, here's what they could be, and we took them out and just shot them up a bunch. And we ended up, from that, reinforcing a lot of stuff with the, with his suggestions. With the metal that we had mostly like disassembled boxcars and stuff like that, so it was more of like a, just an extra layer of metal on the inside of the coach, or on occasion on the outside, but we didn't want it to look evil, I guess. The goal was to, again, try and be friendly. But, yeah. No, and then we had some rivalries. Donadio, the guy who was contesting the Islanders in Narragansett Bay and Block Island Sound, he definitely had no qualms about firing, basically. About starting an actual battle with weapons and firearms and bullets flying. And in fact, he did something, or he attempted to start a straight-up naval war. Unfortunately for him, fortunately, the Islanders were pretty well prepared for that, and they shut him down pretty quick. But, yeah, the Pawtucks, there were a couple of minor skirmishes, but those weren't around the train. I don't know. Generally, we were pretty friendly. Generally, we made friends. So, never did anyone successfully take over the train. I'm trying to think if there's any real standout engagements. Of course, we had a lot of issues with zombies. We had far more with zombies than we did with humans, because every once in a while, we would get a horde a lot larger than we had initially expected, and therefore, the train ended up surrounded by zombies, and we had to just sort of plow through them and shoot as many as we can, and blah, blah, blah. It really wasn't great when that happened, and definitely put people in danger, because the zombies would just cling to the side of the train as we were trying to leave, and we had to, knock them off, shoot them, let them, kick them off the train, whatever. Sometimes you'd have to get kind of up close and personal because they would get in the vestibule and start hammering on the door. But in terms of human enemies getting on the train, really there wasn't much in the way of instances of that. There were a handful of persona non grata that managed to board and started an altercation, but nothing ridiculous. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week. Train Man out.